Welcome to another character request, and this time we're kicking it all the way back into the world of Fairy Godparents, and with Mr. Crocker, or Denzel Crocker, which is one of the funniest characters from the show. And if you don't know about him, he's actually Timmy Turner's teacher, and he has an obsession with fairies. And one thing I almost forgot about this particular character from Mr. Crocker, outside of him being a teacher, teaching Timmy Turner, AJ, some of his friends, AJ, Chester, and all the others who are part of the classroom. And then I forgot the other kid's name with the boil on his face. But it's such a great show, and just seeing these characters and these requests from you guys, it just brings back so many memories, and even shows that, just like I said, this series is so much fun that I'm glad that I came up with for this game, and just all these potential characters that could be a part of this game is mind blowing with all these different characters that you guys are sending in. And I had so much fun putting this one together. So I know so much about the show, it didn't take me too long to really put together a set of ideas for him. And something that also popped up in this request that's different is hazards that I'm going to be talking about. That's going to be with the stage that I think is going to be the better fit for him, for Denzel Crocker. And just a little bit of a little story about him. I forgot that he had his own fairies when he was little, when he was as a kid, and he had fairy godparents of his own. And I think the fact that he knows that Timmy Turner has fairy godparents and fairy godparents, or fairy godparents that he likes to say, he has fairies of his own, makes him a little bit bitter. And he has this obsession of trying to convince people that these fairies are real and they're part of their world. They're actually part of the real world, or at least in the world of Dimmsdale, which is the main setting of Fairly Odd Parents, or everything that goes down from the TV show. If you haven't seen it before, and Mr. Crocker, it has some kind of a session of trying to get access and prove that Timmy has fairies, and prove to the world, or the city of Dimmsdale and the whole entire world, that the fairies actually exist. But people don't believe him. They think he's insane, he's out of his mind, and he's going crazy, and he's just making things up. But in reality, he knows that Timmy has them, and he's trying to bring that out. So some truth to it, and have control of the fairies of his own. Will get his own fairies, and that way he can have all his own wishes come true. So that's just a little bit of a backstory about Mr. Crocker, or Denzel Crocker, for this game and for this character request. And that's why I like talking about these characters, so people get to know the character and find out who he or she is and what they're about. And just in case it might be someone that's brand new to you, or a TV show or a series that you have not seen before, it can bring some light into the background of these characters, of whoever I'm talking about for a particular request. But let's start talking about Mr. Crocker, and just share his ideas and how he can probably be able to be played into this game. He deserves a spot in this game too. If you can't get Timmy Turner or whoever else, if he does get in by chance, they can still take characters from that universe for Timmy's world, and Mr. Crocker will be definitely a funny choice and a unique villain that can add on to it. Not just because he's from Fairly Odd Parents and whatnot. He's an iconic villain from the NCU, to be able to be included to add to the villains of rosters or this roster that can be iconic with Zim and Shredder, because there are only two of them. This game lacks villains, and this is just yet another one alongside of Plankton, Vlad Plasmius, and so many more characters, Man Ray, and the Dirty Bubble, and so many other characters that can be added into this game for villains to fill up the roster. But let's start talking about these ideas, and just as usual, I start with the stage. And Dimmsdale Elementary School is the most ideal stage that can be fit with this particular character, because that's where he teaches, and everything can go down in the classroom, where our characters can be able to battle it out. And this is not going to just be some ordinary stage. It's a little bit different for this particular video, because I came up with my own hazards of how this stage can be played, and you're not only going to have to watch out for these characters, you're gonna have to watch out for some of the hazards. And games like Super Smash Bros. Obviously have some stages. Some stages have hazards from the lava, from Metroid's stage with the lava rising up, and other things that you have to really watch out for. And another stage I can reference, like Onet from Earthbound, or from NASB stage from Super Smash Bros. Melee. The cars on the street will sometimes speed by, and you get the caution sort of notification when the car is about to get ready to approach, and they can run you down and launch you and be able to take you out that way. So on this stage, I came up with some unique hazards to fit the Dimmsdale Elementary School, and I think this could be a very unique sort of mechanic that they can implement, and maybe they can add more stages that has hazards. Because I think the stage that comes to mind the most that has a hazard, well, actual hazards, is Glove World, which is the third SpongeBob stage that's in this game. From the top of my head, that has actual hazards. But this can be another one for Dimmsdale Elementary School. So I came up with flying school supplies that can glide across the screen horizontally, from pencils, textbooks, or books, binders, folders, erasers, and more that can inflict damage on these different characters. So that was just my little idea for hazards that can fit the Dimmsdale sort of stage if they come out with it. And not just bringing up just those items, I came up with the fact that books and binders can be more lethal in comparison to the other items, because when you get hit with a book or a binder, and it's going to do more damage in comparison to like a folder or a little bit of an eraser and just a pencil and stuff like that. So maybe just the books, binders, and the pencils going to do more damage in comparison to the folders and eraser, and then the other sort of school supplies that can appear on the screen and be able to target some of the characters that are participating and battling it out on the stage. Whereas 4 players, it can really get really messy and chaotic, watching out for 3 other players, and then the hazards that are going to be flying across the screen that consist of those school supplies. So you wanted to see a hazard for this? Those are the hazards, the variety of hazards that I came up with for this stage that could be potential sort of animations or different things that they can put into the game for the stages. Maybe some seats as well, from the school desks. The flying desk can be around the screen and stuff like that, and even from the chairs itself. But I didn't put that in there, but I just wanted to, maybe that could be additional things that the player can watch out for when playing on Dimmsdale Elementary School or playing in the classroom itself. So those are the stage ideas that I came up with, and then I slipped in Dimmsdale Dimmadome, which is another iconic stage from the Fairly Odd Parents TV show. So if they can't get to elementary school, they can just add in Dimmsdale Dimmadome. It's just similar how I referenced the cars situation. They can have those kind of things pop up from monster trucks or something like that, trying to stunt and moving around in the Dimmsdale Dimmadome. That could be something. But I mainly came up with hazards for the actual classroom or the Dimmsdale Elementary School. But those are for the stages. We're going to get into the alternate costumes now to start discussing this. So I had to do a little bit of research. I couldn't have any idea. I really didn't have any idea what else he could probably wear for this. And some of these episodes I didn't really remember. And I came up with the Super F helmet that he wore in the Fool's Day Out episode, or was it maybe possibly the Deja Vu episode? I just put both of them down because I couldn't really find the actual post or the actual episode itself. So it's just a clip where he gives Timmy a Super F, and he says, he said, "Good news, Turner, you've taken F to a new level," and he gives him a Super F on his exam or on his test. So that could be something that he can add into the actual, they can add for an alternate costume. So he wears that helmet. That could be easier for the developers and quick and easy to just put on the helmet. See how Lincoln Loud has a beanie on his head. They got birthday hats for the cat dog and just the Christmas hats and stuff like that. It could be a quick and easy alternate costume. But now, just to expand, I don't want to make it too easy for them. How about the Dr. Crocktopus, Mr. Crocker's alter ego from the Big Superhero Wish episode, where Timmy wished that everyone in the world had superpowers. So I think this was one of my favorite episodes as well. And Dr. Crocktopus would be a nice paid DLC alternate costume. If they want to put it behind a paywall, I think people will really buy this costume. And you can look it up yourself. It looks really nice. Dr. Crocktopus can really be something that he can wear. It's a multi-tentacle. He's the multi-tentacle master of the mystic arts. So I thought this could be something that the player could purchase off the store and be able to, purchase for another additional alternate costume. So maybe the Super F helmet, or the helmet that he wore when he gave Timmy the Super F, that could be a free costume, and then they can charge people possibly with this one because it looks so good. It could be something that he can wear, and even if he's not in his regular school attire, with his white shirt and his black tie and his regular pants and stuff like that, and glasses, etc., he can probably come out as Dr. Crocktopus and be able to fight with his multi-tentacle master of the mystical arts. But that would kind of mess up my moveset that I came up with him, because I basically came up with some different ideas for that. So it could be something else that he could probably wear as a potential costume, or if they want to change up his moves, he could fight with that outfit on and be able to use those tentacles to be able to fight in the battle. So he'll have a whole different moveset. Mr. Crocker can have 2 different movesets from this, based on how he looks from his outfit. So I think this particular costume itself can really affect the outcome of how his moveset can really be implemented into this game if he comes out with that alter ego sort of outfit. If he comes out with that being his original costume. So another one I came up with was the evil wizard Crocker from Timmy the Barbarian episode. So that could be something else that he could wear. Just another potential paid DLC. But those are the alternate costumes that I came up with. And just as usual, I don't want to keep saying this for every character, but Mr. Crocker is definitely a good fit for voice line. It's just yet another character that'll be funny to play with, because he has voice lines. He'll be able to say his iconic quotes and so much more in this game. And he could probably be one of the first select few characters that can talk and have his own unique voice lines while he's fighting and doing these taunts. Just for example, for the animations and taunts we're going to get into now, the iconic move, he says, "Fairy Godparents." Just that pose is just so funny to see every time. He does it almost every sort of scene that he does. And he said, finally find out and discover Timmy Turner's Fairy Godparents. So he just does that, so he can be something. It'll be really iconic. That could be a quick taunt that the player can do, and during the battle, and it'll be fun. It's just like, imagine a full lobby of Crocker or Mr. Crocker or Denzel Crocker on the screen, and you could play around online before you're ready to battle. You just do it. Everybody can do it in sync and just have fun, just expanding the taunt, and it'd be really hilarious to see that in this game. And that's something I really want for him to be able to talk in his games, to say these different things, because without a voice, I don't really think none of these animations that I came up with will really actually fit him. They would have to make some super different changes for him for these kind of animations. Because it wouldn't feel the same if he does that pose without saying Fairly Godparents, or Fairy Godparents in the pose, and it's silent. See what I'm saying? So he definitely deserves a voice lines for this. And he says fairies, because he's so obsessed with the fairies. So it'll be something that he could say additionally with it, fairies. And then just something that I came up with two different taunts without voice lines. Of course, I don't want to just make it strictly with voice lines only. He could just do his evil plotting taunt with his hands rubbing together and a sneaky little smile, like a sinister smile, like he's up to something devious, like he's planning and plotting. See what I'm saying? That could be something. He doesn't have to really talk with that. And then another one I came up with, since he always gives out F's to everybody, he could hold out a paper with the letter F on it and be out, have it held out on the screen. So that's another silent taunt without a voice line. So two different voice lines, two different taunts without a voice line. And then another one that I came up with for potential winning animation, when he gets in the winner circle, he could say, this could only be the work of Fairy Godparents. And he just poses on the screen Or he could say, face the fury of my F's. He could say that. So those are just different iconic quotes that I came up with and implemented, and it's from the show. And when he actually says it, and just his pleasure of giving people the F's on their tests and exams outside of AJ, of course, was just the thing that he really enjoyed outside of just trying to find out these fairies and seek them out and trying to find out everything that he can about the fairy godparents and Timmy Turner's fairy godparents in general, and trying to get people to believe his story about the fairies. So those are just the animation and taunts that I came up with. Let me know what you guys think. But just like I said, he's not gonna be, it'll be so empty without the voice lines of some of those animations, and for him to be able to say those things that he says in the shows, in the episodes of the show itself. It'll be very iconic and just so much nostalgia, and it'll be funny. The players will really enjoy this. So that's what I really came up with, and just even without voice lines, he could still be really fun to play with, and just with being able to have those two different talks that I just explained, will still be able to work with him without the voice lines. But now it's time for the moveset, and just to be open, I was focused on school supplies and different sort of school supplies, offensive techniques, and different moves that he can do for this game. And just like I said, if he comes out with that Dr. Crocktopus outfit, with that being his original costume, it would definitely change up his moveset, because he can be able to strike you with his tentacles, and he's going to have different techniques and abilities, and maybe magical spells and magic abilities and tech. I wanted to give him some kind of different technical abilities and magic, because he can be intelligent if he wants to be, but just like I wanted to focus on his original look of how he looks in the show from the cutscenes and stuff like that. So it's going to be school supplies sort of moves that I came up with. But let's go ahead and start talking about these. So the first one I came up with was Fury of F's. I called it Fury of F's and supplies. So it's two different variations of projectiles. So I thought, since just like I mentioned earlier in the beginning, Crocker loved giving out F's to everyone. So this could be a unique projectile iconic attack, where a projectile attack that the player can alternate between the Fury of F's, or the F's on the papers, and then switch between pencils that they can throw across at the opponent. So just a different little variation, a little additional idea. I just didn't want to throw that out there for a little quick moveset. I thought the F's, or the Fury of F's, that the player can switch between the papers will be a lot slower, but the F's will be more damaging compared to the speed of the pencils being a lot more faster. So the pencils that he can throw at you across the screen for projectiles and stuff like that, for a little bit of a projectile attack similar to Garfield and stuff like that, it could be just the same speed. The pencils could be the same speed as Garfield's pies in this game, and then the papers, or the Fury of F's, they'll be a lot slower moving across the screen, but they can really do some serious damage, because it'll only make more sense, because the F's will be more lethal in this game to fit Crocker's character and just his personality for giving out those sort of grades. So I thought he could just, it's almost like two different moves, but the player can be able to switch between them. So if you want to throw pencils, you can throw, the player can be able to switch and see how you could change. They can just press a certain button, an action button, to be able to trigger the different change or variation of the projectiles itself. So you want to throw the papers, you can, and then you can switch to the pencils if you want to, whenever the player chooses to play how he or she wants to use with whatever they want to use. So basically two different projectiles that can be switched and altered between the player. My next one I came up with, pop quiz, because he always does that. It's time for a quiz. So it only makes sense to have some kind of move with this kind of name, pop quiz. Pop quiz is a neutral strong attack I came up with, where Crocker can slap the enemy with a book with a huge surprise and start smacking people around. I think Helga has something like that similarly, but it could be something different. It looked like a binder. I have to go back and look at it, but it could be something similar to what she has. So that's why I started thinking that. But it'll be something that's different and probably a little bit more stronger than Helga's with the pop quiz. So it's a little neutral strong attack that I came up with. How about a ruler? But I came up with an evil ruler where he can start attacking people. His light attacks can consist of using the ruler to inflict damage. So light attacks where Crocker can size the enemy up with a devastating ruler. So I thought this could be something that could be used for some unique light attacks for him during the battles. I'm not sure he can fight with his fists too, but I just came up with the ruler just to get another school supply. A bit of the school supply sort of offensive capabilities. And the clipboard, he can be in the air and just dive down on you, where he can try to hit you with the clipboard. So that could be something that he can do to crush the enemy from above. So that would be something. But I came up with a recovery move just for the sole purpose of, I couldn't really think of one for him, but I was thinking about how he used to have fairies. So I came up with fairy god magic, where he can use his imagination of his lost fairies to uplift him, uplift his spirits, and give him that temporary magic or final fairy magic to be able to get him back onto the stage. So I came up with fairy god magic for his recovery move. So I just couldn't think of anything else how he can be able to recover. So just with it, it fits his obsession with fairies and just the fact that he used to have the fairies, and he can just have that little last minute imagination of make believe magic, where most people think just make believe in these fairies is fake, but it's a reality for him. So he can use his imagination to be able to get back onto the stage and be able to have some kind of wings. So I'm not saying just literal wings to spread to fly onto the stage, but he can just hover from some imaginary fairy magic. See what I'm saying? To be able to get back onto the stage. So I think this would be a good fit for him. So I'm excited to see if they can get him into the game. If so many other characters from the show, that's all I could really come up with for as far as his moveset. It could have been more school supplies. I could have gave him tech, and then that just opens the door for more stuff, because I could have just mentioned his magic fairy blaster that he used to capture Cosmo for one of the episodes, if I remember correctly. He could have been using that in his moveset, but just if he comes out with his Dr. Crocktopus outfit as his original attire, he's going to have a different moveset. He's going to have all these different techniques and abilities. But I just did different ideas for school supplies and different things that could probably fit his original look and capabilities like that. He could have more, but just again with no tech, that's what I was really just focused on. So he could have some magical abilities and different goofy inventions and stuff like that. He could, but I think if he has that outfit, his moveset would be a lot different. But it's just a costume that I used it for. So let me know what you guys think for this request for Mr. Crocker. I think he deserves to be in this game. Another villain, a well-known, likable villain that a lot of people I think will like to see. And I think he has the skill to be able to be in this game, and hopefully he'll be able to have some voice lines to match his animations. He could really be funny to play with. But just with this game lacking villains, Mr. Crocker is definitely an ideal character to be able to be added into this roster.